types of memory in there. Your hard drive is your like storage memory where you have to access it and think about it. Like when I'm teaching something, I'm like, all right, I can think about all these individual aspects, but I can take the time to think about it. But then your RAM, that's your muscle memory. So the goal is to take anything you learn in a concept, take it from your hard drive, and put it into your RAM. Because if it sits in the hard drive and you're fighting in a tournament, you're actually not going to be able to like do it. You can't think about a shot that you haven't trained and done, and then do that shot. It just actually won't work. You have to get it in the RAM. And that's the biggest thing that I want to like emphasize in this class. This isn't really a class where I'm going to show you guys techniques as much as I'm going to try and give you guys a toolkit to go home with. Does that make sense? So when you train, you got to train with like a purpose. So if you're thinking about fighting tournaments, the first place that like
I specifically control that match.
6 months
Like
before
I
the
went
tournament.
very controlled.
Don't start thinking about doing tournaments like as you get there. I want to fight this tournament. I think I'm gonna win. No. If you want to win, start like 6 months to a year before. Start training and applying your training first. The biggest thing you want to do a lot of, I think, is not necessarily pelling the most, but fitness. And I know I'm like sitting up here like both talking about fitness. I've been injured for a while, so but fitness, pelling, headspace, and honestly, videos. If you can find videos of tournaments, you should watch all of them. Being a better tournament herald and watching fighting is huge. If you can't see what's going on in a high-end fight, how can you expect to fight in a high-end fight? Right? So training your mind to like react, see what's going on is a huge deal. Thinking about what is going to happen, what could happen, preparing yourself for that is huge. So like spending time with videos, spending time pelling, spending time doing cardio, because a lot of tournament fighting is just cardio. You're going to be spending a lot of time doing some heavy fighting. Diet. I know that sounds weird, but like a good way to win is to be healthy. If you diet right, it'll be a lot easier. One thing people, I think they forget about is that this is also still a game. Even though there are tournaments, and even though there are prizes, don't let that stop you from having fun. So I think that's one of the biggest mentality things that people lose, is that you stop having fun when you lose. And that's not good, because you're gonna lose. Right? There's no magic recipe to win, right? So we're all gonna lose. A good way to think about tournaments, and it's probably the best way I've ever seen it thought about. You guys ever heard of Moses? Fighter from out west, came to Ragnarok. He has a channel, him and this dude named Coupe have a channel called Hustles. So the way they think about tournaments is that it's just another spar. It's not any different than a spar. It's just two guys fighting, right? There's just other people watching now. But in any other spar, you wouldn't be cheating. It doesn't matter if those two people are watching. It's just they're also keeping a tally of who's winning. Go into every tournament thinking it's a spar. Like, do your training, do your homework, take it seriously. But at the end of the day, it's still just two dudes hitting each other with pillows and sticks. Like, take it lightly and remember to have fun. It's a spar, and if you come in there expecting to learn something and coming out learning something, even if you lose, losing will give you the best learning experience. Winning will teach you much. So like, always remember, Moses literally, when he fights people, he makes jokes in the middle of tournaments because he's just smart. It's just fun. It's a huge thing to remember. This is still a game, and a lot of people get burnt out really quickly because they think, I'm not doing good enough, I need to do better. It's like, set goals. Goal expectations are their thing, but don't let that burn you out, especially because this is a game you should love. You have friends here, you guys are just going to hang out. You guys, one thing that tells us goals and people and expectations. So especially for tournaments, I wouldn't set any expectations for yourself, especially even if you're training hard. Because what you're going to do is you're going to disappoint yourself if you train for 6 months like a motherfucker and then you just lose, because shit happens, right? A good way to like, so a good way to get into like a mentality for tournaments. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Train with a purpose. But don't let that purpose blind you to what the sport still really is. anything they like specifically have a question about, or anything that like they can think of tournaments or something that bugs them? No?
So, like, cardio is obviously number one for sporting games, but are there any other kinds of
That's actually a really good thing. So, you ever heard of block strike?
Yes.
So, block strike is a really good drill. I'd recommend that you spend a good portion of your practice block striking, especially if you want to do like single blue and sword and board. There's a modified version of block strike called block 2. Have you ever heard of that? So block 2 is where you block 2 shots before you're allowed to throw any shots. You can do it in sparring too. You don't have to tell anybody that you do. You just be like, hey, do you want to spar single blue? You block 2 shots before you're allowed to throw any shot. That's a really good way to boost your defense heavily, because you have to think about first you're blocking, then you're thinking about the second block. Then after that second block, you're now allowed to return. So you can think a lot about returns and what's going on there. Another good exercise would be block strike is really good. Pelling is important. Cardio. Honestly, just finding a sparring partner too. If you have someone who's dedicated enough, then that's the way I like trained when I first started fighting. I don't know if the people who knew me, people here who knew me, when I first started coming up, it was like kind of like I don't want to say like an explosive growth, but I kind of went kind of fast. And the reason that happened is because I took 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. It was just me and one other guy, and we just go in the backyard and we literally do block strike for an hour and then spar for an hour. That's it. Anything else. And that'll get you going really quick. The biggest thing though is like, the whole thing I want to emphasize is just training. You gotta go in, you gotta train. There's nothing anybody can teach you in any class that'll just make you good, right? There's no secret footwork. There's no magic solution. There's no magic formula. It's all about just training. Training with purpose. Does anybody else have any questions, comments? Expectations. So expectations, it's good to have them. And I definitely think it's important to set them. But it's definitely, you don't want them to like get in the way of having fun. Does that make sense? Like, don't ever go into a tournament expecting to win a tournament. Limit your expectations to something realistic. Like, I'm going to go into a tournament expecting to learn. I think that's the best way to go into a tournament. Is that you can never expect to win. You shouldn't expect to win. There's just going to be a lot of people playing. It's probably better. I think limiting those expectations to something more manageable is a huge part, especially if you find yourself a really competitive fighter, you realize that. It's really important to remind yourself, like, I gotta really pay attention to like not get upset, because that can also affect how you fight in a tournament too. So you don't want to be that guy in a tournament who, if on the field and you're having a good day and that hit you in the shoulder, you just be like, yeah, I'm dead, I'm fucked, I'm dead, I'm fine. But in the tournament, you're like, that's light. That could really, really hurt you. Like, so I think that's also one big thing is if you ever feel that you need to not take a shot, or that you feel like I could call light on that because it's a tournament, it's different. It's not different. If you had to think about that and your thought even crossed your mind, you should just take it. There's nothing worse than going into a tournament and then coming out and you did well, and people have to question if you did well because you did well, or if you did well because you cheated. That's a big thing, I think. Cheating is no way now. Makes you look bad. This is a peer game, so like we're not really, even though there's no metric to be like, oh, that wasn't hard enough. We know. Makes sense. We know. So all this stuff is really in regards to like same weapon, same weapon. So some of this stuff doesn't really apply to a lot of like different combos and whatnot. Does anybody have any weapon specific questions?
Tell me about quarter staves.
Don't use them. If someone ever's like, you should totally use a quarterstaff for in a tournament.
Now hold on. You just bought one yesterday.
I didn't buy one yesterday.
No.
No, I've had that. I've had my quarterstaff for a while. So yeah.
Can
Says
confirm.
The person who owns a quarterstaff and uses it. Don't use it. If you want to win, or you're expecting to win, or set an expectation to do well in the tournament. Yeah, you're trying to have fun or get a W. That's a good way to put it. One thing, I think I'm gonna give you guys actually homework. So feel like that's what classes should do, right?
Boo!
Well, I'm dropping out of this class.
So, if you want to get really good, or one thing to do to get really good really quickly, and a good way to increase your defense a lot, this is something I do when I train for single blue especially. I think this class is more centered around single blue, I should say, than anything. Get up single blue, find a buddy, do block strike. Don't move your arms, only move your feet. Set your blue somewhere like this, and the only way you're allowed to block is if you move your feet. If you need to block somewhere area, you move your feet. That'll really train your feet, ways to move, how to not cross your feet, which is probably the most important thing that I think I could like convey during this class is do not cross your feet. Especially when you're training to fight and you're training to do single blue. Crossing your feet could be like a death sentence. Train a lot. It's pretty much the gist of my rant that I just did. It's just train a shit ton. Any other questions? Especially mental. Do we have any mental space questions or head space questions?
I find that tournaments involve a lot of waiting around.
Yes.
Which usually makes me like drop out of fight mode if I've got a lot of time to do rounds. Is there any way to like stay in an aggressive state and not doing anything for a extended period of time?
That's a good question. I think it varies depending on like what hypes you up. You can always find somebody in line. It depends on where it's located though. Because like I know in the arena there, people are waiting in the arena, so you can't really spar someone while you wait. I know at Eastman though, you usually wait outside the arena. If you need to, that's what I sometimes I spar someone while we're waiting. We're both waiting. We both want to get amped up, right? So we both spar each other for a little bit. It's always good. Other than that, you just got to kind of figure out what amps you up. Because I can't really give you an answer to that because different things amp me up and get me excited to fight. Now I kind of enjoy the waiting and the silence and the like calm before the storm. I kind of like
The contemplation.
yeah, I like to contemplate, think about my last fight, think about going into the next fight, what I'm going to do. That's something I want to talk about. When you go into a fight, don't go into a fight like, being like, I'm going to throw this shot, then I'm going to throw this shot, then I'm going to throw this shot, and it's going to be great. Like, I see a lot of people go into fights thinking, like, have a plan for that fight. And that plan can be altered at any point during the fight by literally anything that other person was doing, plus any mistake you could just make. So when you go into a fight with a plan, I think you're planning to fail. I think you should go into a fight with a toolkit that's open, ready for you to just use. So I'd rather go in with that than have this pre-established plan and left half my tools behind, and then I'm like, oh shit, I didn't bring this one. Let me, right? So open your toolbox, have it next to you, and just be waiting, because you never know when someone's going to throw at you, right? And I think that's the important thing about training and why I train. If you build a bigger toolkit, you have more tools in that toolbox to use, and then you can just pull them out whenever you need them. Training for specific situations or a specific shot or like a specific, very specific guy and one specific weapon set. You're going to get really good at killing that one guy with that one very specific weapon set. Congratulations. But what if he changes something one day? He learns a new trick. You could have been working on your toolbox, but instead you were working on a very specific tool for this one person. So, biggest thing, expand your toolbox. Any other questions? Any headspace questions?
How much pre-workout should I be on?
You're an adult and can make your own decisions. I prefer none. I actually, like, when I do tournaments, I prefer no. Some people do pre-workout. Some people take monsters and stuff. Some people take one of their Adderalls or whatever. I don't like to do any stimulants or anything crazy before I go into a tournament. Unless you train every day on that same stimulant. I say if you're going to go into a tournament, you go into the tournament the same one you train for that tournament. Because all the muscle memory and everything is going to be based on all the variables that you've incorporated into your training. And if you start throwing other crap into that, like, oh, I've trained for 6 months and I've never used pre-workout, and I'm going to go into this tournament with 2 scoops of pre-workout. Congratulations, you just threw a variable in, and you have no idea how that's going to affect your performance whatsoever. Or maybe you do know, but you haven't trained with it, so it could throw you off somehow. So my biggest thing is consistency, training, train a lot. As someone who's not currently training right now, as I say that to a bunch of people. But that's like the clear-cut way if you want to like set the expectations for victory. It's the best ways to get it. Any other questions? I like answering questions. This is good. No? Specific anything?
How do you fight? So like you get into the tournament, you get higher than you think, and you know that this is a fucking amazing fighter. And you look around and you just
And so you're like, I think I'm gonna lose.
Yeah,
Like that thought comes over your mind. You're like, this guy's way better.
What happens when Aiden is standing on the other side of the ring?
So as someone who's literally been in that situation like 10 times, So the first 3 or 4 times, I literally just walked in there and I'm like, all right, well, this is it. I lose. I'm done. Congratulations, I've already lost, and I haven't even stepped in the ring, and I've convinced myself that I've lost. That's like setting my expectation very low to try and not disappoint myself, which is ultimately a disservice to yourself, right? You have to view, especially if you want to win a tournament, because I assume if you enter the tournament, you want to win, right? And you know, and you're at the final thing, and you know this person's better than you, great. You got to fight them still. Don't look at it that way. It's just another guy in this tournament. And yeah, you know he's better than you, and adjust for that. Fight the best that you can fight, because he's probably going to be putting in his best too. Or if they're that much better than you, they might underestimate you. But if you're putting your best in, and you've been training, and they haven't seen you in a while, there's a really good chance you're going to win. And I've seen a lot of fighters who people are like, well, there's no way he's going to win. And then he wins. And that's because he kept the mentality of, I'm pretty sure I can win this.
Puncher's chance.
Like, fake it till you make it too. If you really think you're going to, tell yourself you're going to win. Convince yourself you're going to win. If you got that far, why couldn't you beat that last person? You just got one more person to go. And the best way is just to kind of build your confidence. The minute you tell yourself I'm going to lose, you're going to lose. I guarantee you're going to lose. It's really easy to let yourself lose. Because you're not going to be disappointed if you lose, because you set that expectation for yourself already. So you're just setting yourself up for it. Don't ever set yourself up to lose. If you want the W, you want the W. Put that in your head. Is that good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? These are all really good questions, by the way. Because I totally lost track of my thought when I was rambling up here like a madman. No? Any specific questions regarding single blue footwork, anything like that?
Another one about working out.
What's up?
I'm starting to see like a lot of wear and tear on my body.
Your upper body?
Just my body. in
Yeah.
general, from so long. You got any good preventative measures? Like, don't throw a shitty shot.
Don't throw bad shots. Make sure you're throwing shots right. I know I might teach a class where we talk about body mechanics and body work. I don't want to go over like huge. We'd be here for like 2 hours if I talked about body mechanics for a shot. Make sure you're throwing shots correctly. Talk to someone if you don't know if you're throwing a shot correctly. That's a big thing. If you're throwing a shot and it hurts after you throw it, if you've been throwing it for like a couple days, stop. Find somebody else who throws that shot and you know they throw it right. Talk to them. Because you're going to hurt yourself. You'll give yourself tennis elbow easily. Wraps will give people tennis elbow. If your elbow is not perpendicular to the shot, you're probably doing it wrong. If your arm is straight and your wrist is like this, or if your elbow is not perpendicular when the shot ends, I'm telling you right now, you're doing it wrong. If your elbow starts hurting when you do the wrap, you're doing it wrong. Take a second, retreat, find somebody else who knows how to do it better, have them walk you through it. It could just be a small thing. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself training. Did you hurt yourself?
On here. I was throwing my wraps, I was pulling with it. So I stopped doing it as much, but then now I put the wrap on there until I feel really comfortable getting it around. Yeah, I had to get a high-level fighter. Like, what am I doing wrong? What's happening? You have to watch my fighting really closely to see that I was doing that. Because it wasn't rotating all the way around. It started to get a bunch of problems all in here.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask somebody. Like, a lot of these really good fighters, like especially these people literally right behind us, these are all really good fighters, a lot of them. Like, they have no problems like talking to you guys and teaching anything that you guys want to know. Listen. It's a big part. Listen to what they say, especially if you ask them a question. Listen, digest it, and just know that like no matter what anybody says immediately, it won't immediately make you better. You just gotta take it home and train with it. Training, that's I've probably said this a million times. That's the biggest thing is training. If you go home and you train, there's a much better chance you're gonna do much better than you thought you would. Training is huge. Do you have any other questions, comments, concerns? Oh, that's actually it. So some people get really discouraged because you'll fight and you'll train really hard, and then won't feel an explosive growth, or you won't feel much growth at all, and you'll feel really stagnant. Don't let that discourage you. Everyone learns and fights at a different pace, and it's okay to not be the best fighter on the field. Especially if you know you're not putting in 5 to 6 days a week fighting. If you're putting in like 5 to 6 days a week, you're probably gonna be good. But if you're not putting in like a ton of time, you have a full-time job, which a lot of us do, or even a part-time job, or multiple part-time jobs, and you just don't have the time to fight and train, don't beat yourself up for it. Again, This is just, we're all just adults hitting each other with pillows taped to sticks. Like, don't lose sleep over it, right? It's a good way to get healthy, it's a good way to make friends, and it's a good way to have some fun and be competitive. But don't let lack of training or lack of doing well in tournaments. I haven't been able to train in like a year properly because I'm just injured perpetually. And I still enter some tournaments sometimes, and I don't do very well, but I have fun. It's fun. It's important not to lose that aspect. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And if you feel like you're just coming here and being competitive and you're just mad when you leave an event because you just didn't do well, or you just hate doing tournaments because they just make you angry, or you need to do them, but you just feel sour afterwards, like, take a break. It's okay. You don't have to come out to DAG all the time. It's okay. Breaks are good. You lose a lot of bad habits in breaks. That's one thing people don't tell you. Like, bad habits aren't things that usually stick around. Sometimes your good habits will go too, but if you haven't trained with a bad habit for very long and then you leave for like 6 months and then you pick up a sword, you'll probably lose some of those bad habits because you don't practice with them often. You'll remember the muscle memory stuff that you trained a lot of, but you might lose some of that crap. So don't be afraid to take a break. Remind yourself this is still just a game. Don't get sad, especially when you're not like matching up to your peers or something. If someone else is just accelerating a little farther, it's fine. We all grow at different rates. Don't let that discourage you from being a good fighter or wanting to be a good fighter. Everyone grows differently. I know I pretty much rambled at everyone like, hey, just have fun. It's game. But, you know what I meant.
It's only a game.
It's
Why
only a
you
game.
have to be mad?
Right? The biggest thing I want you all to do is just train. Get a pal if you don't have one. Or a buddy who's willing to get hit a shitload. Take him in the backyard and fight. Fight a lot. And fight right. If you have questions, find someone online. Find me. My name is Max. I posted on the page. If you have questions about specific things, like I can answer them. I'm not the best fighter in the world, but I fight with some pretty good dudes, and I think I'm okay.
How do we set up a pel at home?
What's up?
Do we buy a pel or set one up?
So I use a bob. I don't know if anyone here has done any fighting sports. I know what a bob is. That's just a torso of a like muscly dude that sits on this like plastic pillar that you fill with water, and usually boxers fight them. I set it to my height, and then I just pel on that. So it's a perfectly anatomical representation. You can also take like a bucket of cement, stick a PVC pipe in there, and wrap it in blue mat. Make a little T-cross at the top, wrap that shit. And you have a dude, literally just a T-pose. You just need something to denote your shoulders. Maybe put a little thing in the middle to denote the head because you don't want to hit that. Because if you train to hit the middle of your pel for some reason and smack heads, you're just a jerk.
Do you
Yes.
recommend using your main weapons, or should you buy like a cheaper set? Like when you use a secret pad, should I just get like a plastic pad or like a cheaper sword sling on it?
So
Wear it there.
I say train with what you're gonna fight with. Because my thing is, if your human body is a machine and we know that it learns through a specific way, and you start throwing extra variables in, your brain has to readjust for those variables. And even 1 ounce of weight is a variable. And so if you're trying to look at it in like a scientific kind of way, the best way to do it and train is to keep everything consistent and the same, so that when you enter that environment outside of your home, you have as many consistencies as possible to try and get away any of that extra variable. You want to try and have your training at home be as close to how you're going to fight in a tournament. So I'd say if you have the money to and you can, train with whatever you're going to fight in a tournament with, because that's probably going to give you the best results. If you use like a heavier training sword, you might get a little stronger, but you're probably just going to hurt yourself and just use a really heavy sword and then train to fight with a heavy sword, and then you go out with a sword that's way lighter and you're like, your muscle memory is a little different just because of the couple ounces. So I say train with what you're going to fight with. Hope that answers that question. I'm trying to think. Did I miss anything? No, I talked about the Iron Wine. We looked at our feet for a second. But you guys all have a pretty decent stance, by the way. Some of you guys came in late, so I didn't really see, but general stance is pretty good. Just make sure you're solid. Iron Y. Make sure you step outside. Start training to step outside. That's going to be huge. Don't just step outside to step outside, though. Step outside with a purpose. So if you step outside to do a shot or step outside to do a block, make sure it's doing it to do something. So if you're just stepping outside to be like, maybe I'll see if I'll see some butt, but you don't have a plan to do afterwards. All your power is generated from your feet. Talked about headspace stuff. Pretty good. Does anybody have any more questions? I think I talked about everything I kind of want to talk about. Just kind of rambled for a little bit. Some of y'all missed the beginning of my stuff, but anybody have any questions or concerns or questions about specific weapons or tournaments in general or training? No? All right. Well, you guys got the basics of the basics. The like headspace lecture, the Alator crazy ramblings. That was that. I hope you all got some useful information. I hope I gave you guys something like some information to use to start building a toolkit. So that's pretty much the biggest thing. Is every fighter should just have a toolkit, and then you should have that toolkit ready at any point to kind of use whatever tool's ready for that situation. And training is a big part of building that. You guys didn't have to clap. I was clapping. I appreciate you guys. I've been mad nervous, and I had no idea how to like talk about things. So I appreciate you guys listening. If any of you guys have any questions, like you guys can message me on Facebook.